Greetings and welcome to Star Trek Discovery Pod, a trying to be funny, sometimes we're smart podcast covering all things new and classic Trek. Long live the Empire. I am your captain, Myrriah Gossett. With me on the view screen, we have
Paul. There's a episode in season 2 that was like, where the probe comes back as it basically went to the Matrix universe and came back. And I was gonna try and make a Matrix joke, but then I go, maybe I'm not that good. I'm not that good. I'm
You're not
sorry,
the
guys.
chosen one, Paul.
I'm not the chosen one. Wrong franchise, everyone. Come on there.
Clyde, unfortunately, is in sick bay. We wish him well. Send him all your good thoughts, and hopefully he will be back with us.
And I know what everyone's
week.
thinking. Everyone's thinking that we might have, killed him, but we didn't.
No, he's just in sick bay. We promise he will be back, much like Culber.
That's right. That's right.
He has been put into a pod to be reformed.
Because I wonder, I'm getting hate mail. People thinking I'm the Klingon that went.
Oh man, you are so an Ash Tyler.
That's the most hurtful thing you've ever said to me. It's the most hurtful thing,
Oh, I'm sorry, but not really. As you all might know, we are continuing our rewatch of Star Trek Discovery. This time we are jumping into season 2 with episodes 1 through 7. I'll get into all of those honorifics of who wrote and directed these lovely episodes. But first, just a couple of reminders. Paul, where can people find this show and share it if they want all their other Star Trek friends to listen to us?
Wow. Okay. Well, I assume that everyone's already listening to us, but if you haven't, please subscribe to our podcast at Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. All links are at StarTrekPod.co. And if you love, or even detest our content, but want to support us, please consider joining our Patreon for just $2 an episode at patreon.com/StarTrekPod.
Indeed. And you can listen to Paul and I talk about some of our favorite Spock moments. That was the latest Patreon episode. We went into detail, and you can tell us about how wrong or right you think we are.
Oh, Scruffy Ash. Oh, no. Is that going to be a thing?
Are you? Oh, this is the season of Scruffy Ash. I think you need the top knot, though, for that.
Let's see. I could probably
You
do
might be able to do it. You might be able to. Oh,
okay.
there it is. If y'all aren't watching us on YouTube, you got to come check it out so you can see Paul's incredible hairstyles. Join us over there. If you are watching us live this evening on YouTube, we love when you hang out with us live, especially for these rewatches. We love digging back into these nitty-gritty details. You can type capital P, capital O, capital pod in the chat if you want us to pay attention to what you're talking about instead of y'all having your lovely conversations on the side. Paul, before we jump into discussing season 2, I wanted to chat with you about the Section 31 movie news that we got this week. They officially started filming. The potential very vague logline that they gave us is Georgiou is tasked with protecting the United Federation of Planets, but she also must face the sins of her past. Any predictions?
I don't know. I don't know if Georgiou has committed any sins. I mean,
eating Kelpians,
is that
murdering a lot of people.
I mean, I'm just saying, within the context of her, of her, what you call it, of her value system,
Oh yeah, she probably does not see them that well. I don't know. I would say when she goes through that portal this last season, she seemed to have had some inner dialogue going on.
But that is she is going to Federation space, mirror universe, corrupting her values. I don't know. I think there's an aspect where I go oh, if the person you are on the inside is the person you are on the outside, isn't that something to be admired? Just have that, that, what you call it, that alignment. And I feel like Georgiou, Empress or Captain, fairly in alignment with the person that they are on the inside and the person they are on the outside. So who's to say that, she has some sins? Maybe, mercy is a sin.
Mm.
I
Well,
don't know. I don't know. Like, it might sound like I'm a sociopath.
I would never say that, Paul.
I apparently am gonna be Ash Tyler this year. And
Yeah, we'll dig into Ash Tyler because woo, buddy, the first couple episodes of this season, I kind of forgot. But other notable things from the announcement from Paramount Plus is a couple of actors that have been added to the cast. Notably, I did not see Shazad Latif in this listing, but
mm,
I still have hope. Um, we do have Omari Hardwick, Casey Roll, Sam Richardson, who just won an Emmy. I love Sam Richardson. I'm really excited. I hope he gets to be funny because I think Sam is a great time when he gets to be funny. Sven Roygok, Robert Kanzi, Humberly Gonzalez, and James Hiroki Lau, uh, who's from Barry, who's really fun in Barry. So some really big heavy hitters. We got people from Ted Lasso, One Piece, Hannibal, Pacific Rim, and Barry. So quite a nice array of people.
yeah, no, and I mean, Shoyo will kick every
All
one
their
of them.
asses,
That's right,
all
in
of
the
them.
face. They're like, no, like, I'm very excited about the news. Like, I would have preferred the series.
Mhm.
Uh, I think I would prefer the series. I don't know, like, but like in that way that I prefer Star Trek when it's in its grays, but its
Mm.
grays can only exist, when it's like so straight laced. So I get it. Maybe not everyone wants to deal with that, but I get it.
Yeah,
Take what you get.
it'll be interesting. I know originally like the series, I think some of the headwriters originally attached to it was Bo Young Kim and Erica Lapolte, who are typically some of my favorite writers from Discovery, and they've worked a lot on the comic book series as well as Kristen Bayer. And so um, we'll see what comes out of this new iteration.
I don't believe that they wrote the screenplay for the script. I
No, they
believe,
did not.
yeah, I'm like, I know someone who knows that person, so I'm
Yeah,
one
it's
degree
written
with.
by Craig Sweeney and it's being directed by Olatunde Onsunsame.
Okay, well then there you go.
And obviously executive produced by the Kurtzman, also Craig Sweeney, Aaron Bayers, Olatunde, Frank Siracusa, John Weber, Eugene Roddenberry, Trevor Roth, and Michelle Yeoh are all attached.
Ooh, go Michelle.
So I'm excited to see what happens there. The era for the movie been announced. I'm assuming it's immediately after she leaves the mirror universe again.
No, I mean, I would assume this is good. She goes through the portal, right? So you don't know where, like, the portal's gonna take her. I assume that was gonna be like 1990s Earth, but like I don't know if that's happening. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we jump into the Bell riots. We love a Bell riot situation.
You love a Bell Right situation.
They're
Uh,
coming.
I don't know, but like I would hate for it to just take place on Earth without a lot of space battles. You,
Yeah,
you
I
kind of
mean, the one picture they leaked, I mean, granted, it's mostly just of Michelle Yeoh's face with like a clapper in front of it. It looks to be on a spaceship.
okay,
So we
cool,
have something, but that
cool,
is
cool.
all.
And the sins of her past, I imagine maybe that would be in the Terran universe. Maybe I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe.
Who knows? Who
I
knows?
imagine they might be reusing a couple of sets we've probably seen,
Sure,
be
sure.
my guess. Um, But okay, let's go ahead and jump into these first couple of episodes here. We are diving into, I know it's going to be a big discussion, but I actually think this is a nice way to break it up because we essentially start with the search for Spock and we end with the Spock reveal for this first half of the season, which is crazy that it took us until episode 7 to get to Spock.
Sure, sure.
And
No,
I remember that feeling. So
it just seems like after seeing this first 7, I go like, Spock has a history of getting lost and people to search for him.
we love a search for Spock. And speaking of which, I think it is time for some
Cold freight.
time for
Cold,
some old freight.
cold freak. I'm not a murderer.
I'm not a murderer. What did you think of these first 7 episodes? Any particular highlights or lowlights for you?
Low lights. I think I might like the. I mean, I really like a lot of things happening here. I like the introduction of of Tig.
Mhm.
I like. I, I feel Saru is rounded out a little more in a way that I feel like, and I like Pike. I think what I have a problem with the season as a whole, and we'll talk about this, is that they stuff a lot in again. And so like when you stuff so much in, are you giving this service to the things that you want? Because we're in 7, and there's only 7 more, and we're gonna see Spock, in some of that.
Yeah. And we've barely introduced Control. This is like the
Yeah,
beginnings of the introduction of Control.
which to me is the more interesting element of the season 2. And I understand, like I feel like the slow burn is a really slow burn. And when you think of like the first season, I go like, what am I more interested in, the Terran universe or the Klingon War? And the answer is I'm interested in both, but by having both, you've kind of split my attention. With this one here, I'm so focused on Spock or the Angel. Like, once again, it's not exactly clear, but what the moment the second season comes in, when we deal with Control, that seems to be the more interesting thing to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. They jam pack so much in that it's like I think it's like the first episode, like my big takeaways that I wrote in my notes was like Pike is great, Reno is fucking great, and Kurtzman said, "I'm going to make this look like a movie" for this first episode. And then it just kind of like uh the weaving of like it felt like they were trying to resolve stuff from I think my big note of this first 7 is it feels like the audition for the spinoffs. And like there's lots of stuff that I liked from these first 7
hmm
episodes and I'll get into that. But overall, it felt like they were like, "Oh, I don't know if we got the fan response we thought we were going to get from this show. So we already have this second order. So we're going to toss a bunch of stuff in and see what people like and see what spin-offs result from that." Because it's like all of the Section 31 world building is like bananas. We're going to bring in Rebecca Romaine
Or
and then
cameo.
for a cameo and not dangle that as like a carrot of what could be if we're going to introduce these legacy characters. And then like yeah, it's funny because I was sitting here and I guess we'll just like dig in, but I was watching these episodes with Jordan, my spouse, and at one point he was like, "Wait, aren't we looking for is this
Something.
the one where we look for Spock?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Is this the one where they also have to jump into the future?" And I was like, "I think so." And then isn't this the one where they also and it was just like one of those like
Sure.
hat on a hat on a hats where you're just like, "Oh my gosh, so much occurs." It's almost refreshing, I think, by the time we get to like seasons 3 and 4 that you're like, "Oh, at least we're just like tackling one problem per
Sure.
season."
Yeah. No, no. I mean, like, I guess this is what episodics used to be, right? Where you have a
Right.
new adventure each week, but like it's not really tied into the whole.
I think that's what it does feel like. It's like they're putting in an adventure of the week with these like really big,
Mhm.
complicated, long season story arcs.
And they're significant. They're emotionally and like world. It's not like, oh, will will Chandler finally ask Monica out?
Mhm.
It's like, oh, and if we don't do this, everyone dies, kind of thing. Like, oh, and that's what they make it with the Red Angel, right? Like,
Yeah.
for all they go like, yeah, this has a lot of power. It can kill everyone. Can it? Diddly
Y-
about it.
Yeah.
Jack Tribble about it.
Yeah, it's interesting. So like starting with Brother where we kind of kick off the season, it is directed by Kurtzman, it's written by Ted Sullivan, Gretchen J. Berg, and Aaron Harberts. And it's interesting to why I'm always so interested in the like behind the scenes cahoots of things because it's like uh episodes I feel like 1 through 4 are very like the original guard and then we get into from 5 on it's like people whose names we now see all the time in the show is like Kristen Bear, Bo Young Kim, Eric
Mhm.
Lapel, Ted Sullivan. um like these are the people we see continuing the show and I know this is the one where there was a lot of I mean the first 2 seasons had a lot of showrunner changeover. And I feel like you can see a lot of that.
I mean,
It
like the
So
discovery was a very hard thing, right? Because like the vision of it was not entirely fleshed out. Like when you see Strange New Worlds from the get go, from the moment Pike on a horse in the snow, you
right.
knew what the show was going to be.
Yeah.
Like there's a certain confidence there, and not to say that people weren't confident, but like you were literally discovering what it was going to be.
Yeah, and there's so many moments that I really like. Like I love the introduction of Jet Reno. I love Pike in the series. I think a lot of it and like I love the growth of Saru this season. I feel like I love Tilly this season. There's so much good Tilly
Hmm.
in this season that I can see like where these characters are really starting to like take shape and form and become like our core um like cast. I still at sometimes feel like, I mean, Sonequa Martin Green is acting her butt off in whatever she is given, but it feels like a lot of this season was she is just the plot. Her movements are just to move the plot and not necessarily for us to learn anything about her character in some ways, to me, in this first half.
I mean, like yeah, I mean, like I said, it's a lot. I don't even think it's bad. I'm enjoying what I'm watching.
Yeah, I'm having a good time and I'm
It,
still entertained. It was just like,
it's just I don't feel like it feels disjointed.
yeah, I would agree with that. Um, yeah, I really enjoy so like the new Eden episode I thought was really fun and felt like a bit of a return to like what I was looking for. What's funny is it's the one that I wrote the least amount of notes for, and I think it's because I was just enjoying watching the
Sure.
episode. Um and how they were starting to pull all of these pieces together. I'm glad we got to see like OO go and do like a field mission. We're finally getting a better, I think, lay of our bridge crew in this episode. And then we also start having Tilly with her uh uh, I think some great
May.
one-liners and like with May, yeah.
Mhm.
The power of math people when they bring the asteroid in, like all of these things are super fun moments for her. Um the other part of this season though that made me very excited and I'm sad we didn't get to stay with it is when we're at like Klingon High Council and getting into the drama of the Klingon
You
world.
and the Klingons. Like I feel like that's
I
another thing where like it was wedged in. Like
The fight sequences were fun. I was like so into this like internal power struggle and like
like
now we have like call me mother, like it was great.
so like right now I'm working on a recipe for a Basque cheesecake, and
Uh-huh.
I'm adding like like I'm playing with stuff. I'm adding some like different cheeses. I'm adding some citrus. I'm adding
Mhm.
this. And, at some point I need to stop adding. Right? If I go like
Mhm.
you know what I really like. I also like a filet mignon. Let's put some filet mignon in this cheesecake.
Like the
It's
Friends trifle.
it's not gonna be right. And I feel
Mhm.
like in this episode, like the only reason why you saw that Klingon stuff was because they needed to bring Ash back for that was
Which yeah, I mean, I appreciate seeing it and it not happening off screen, which I think
mhm.
is something like was a big fatal flaw for me in like the final season of Ted Lasso, where so much major character development happened off screen. So like, was it shoved in there? Yes. Did I enjoy all of that? Absolutely.
Sure, but this comes down to the thing, right? Where like you have in order to make something work, you can't put in everything.
Yeah.
Just by
I
definition.
I do wonder. It's like it almost feels like they approached thinking of everything they wanted to do this season like they were getting a traditional 22 to 24 episode series
Mhm,
order for Star Trek. Cuz I wonder if there is that pressure to be like, here's everything that used to happen in a Star Trek series.
mhm.
How do we hit all of those same things
Sure, sure. No, I
rather
mean,
than being like, we only have 14 episodes. What are we going to do in 14 episodes?
no, I mean, I'm like surprised on how much they get done. Like the fact that
Yeah.
they went to Kelminar, they
Mhm.
they had a real normal episode with New Eden that they
Mhm.
added, like a lot of stuff really happens, and I so that went into the what you call it, the mycelial network to get Colbert.
Yeah,
Like
it's so
so
much,
much,
and we're only
so much.
seven episodes in. That was a whole other. I in my my notes, it's like sometimes I'll be like, I can't believe this is all the same episode. Where I'm like, oh my gosh, we got Rebecca Remain. Yes, more Reno. The Tower of Babel moment was super fun. Reno and Stamets is a really like when they're arguing about duct tape,
Mhm.
and then in all of this, you also have Saru going through his Vihare and like almost dying, and
Yeah, no,
then
and you have this like this 100,000-year-old like
Sphere.
planet, like mini planet person. It's a lot.
Yeah. And then we also get the big reveal of Leland is the reason Burnham's parents are dead.
It's a lot.
It's a
It's
lot.
like the way I used to you would say it's like most stories, most TV episodes have like an A plot and maybe a B plot, and then or a C plot, or if maybe just faintly a D plot. This is like A plot and another A plot and another A plot. Every almost every storyline could be its own storyline.
Truly. Um, I have a couple of questions for you. Can you explain to me in a succinct way how Hugh exists again?
Uh, sure.
You're not going to do
Well, that's
it?
you want as you asked. I answered the question like you're like as succinctly as possible. Can I explain? Sure. Uh,
Sure.
sure. The way that I feel like that they've described it is here's Stamets, and he's like this. Yeah, magic mushrooms exactly. Like
Can has it? Yeah, magic
uh,
mushrooms.
like he's connected to the mycelial network, and Hugh's energy, as it's dying, like is transferred through him to the what you call it to the network.
Yeah.
And then from there, like May's folks decide, oh, here's some energy, let's just recycle that shit,
Mhm.
and there you go. It's sketch as hell.
Yeah, I'm sure there's like so I follow the real Paul Stamets on TikTok. I
uh,
highly recommend it.
the
He's a
mushroom man.
joy, the mushroom man. And the way he talks about mushrooms, fascinating. And I'm sure there are ways that it could be explained how mushrooms like recycle energy and all of these things. And I 100% believe in my science people who work at Star Trek to be like, this is close enough to what could potentially happen with the laws of physics and the idea of mushrooms. But it's
With
like it is
subspace mushrooms.
subspace mushrooms, but like it is also such a classic Trek move though to be like, oh yeah, this person's just like alive again. Don't worry about it.
Well, let me ask you, like who?
Like Shax is still around, you
Yes,
know?
but like in the prime continuity, like who comes back aside from Spock?
Picard,
Picard comes back how?
usually Q nonsense.
Did Picard ever die? He never died.
Not when he's like they're going through time and he gets stabbed in the chest.
Well, he got what you call it. He got shot in the chest by a compressed something something something, and like his heart wasn't working, and then he had a fever dream that might have been Q.
But then Picard's also come back as a golem, technically.
But that's you go like, oh, here's your brain pattern. I transfer it to a
Yeah.
robot. Like people don't actually come back as much as like
They get reconverted into a different reformation of their being.
yeah, like for a search of Spock, that's where the window opened,
Yeah.
and you're like going like, okay, we'll do this mumbo jumbo bullshit, and
The
and this
Genesis machine.
and you go like, okay, we'll give you a pass because we don't because obviously it was a mistake that you killed Spock.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
I mean,
uh,
yeah, to Chupi's point, it's definitely quote unquote magic with a DNA cover thrown in, but really how did Spock actually come back with the Genesis device?
well, the
Yeah.
actual explanation is like the Genesis wave was not over when they sent the photon torpedo, and somehow it revigorated his dead cells. According to that dumbass,
Mhm.
exposition, I agree. And so whenever someone comes back from the dead, it is a little goofy. Like I think
Yeah.
this whole first 7 is like course correction. Like, we've made some bold swings in season 1, and we need to fix them now because like everyone's mad at us that we killed like the he couple, right?
Um,
And like like, oh, we actually need an engineer. We don't have we don't
mhm.
have an engineer on ship, so like it, I don't know. It seems like
Yeah, it's interesting. I will say though, there's some like hats off to Wilson Cruz who's giving like an incredible
he's
performance of like
amazing.
so many versions of this person.
Yeah, he's amazing. And he's I mean like to their credit, like it isn't like really shot in a way that I got the first time, but like when you see it, you go like, oh, here's Paul Stamets thinking everything's okay,
Yeah.
and here's this person who's like come back from the dead. Is there some trauma there? A little bit.
Mhm. I know him sitting on that bed and being like, "Where's my scar?" And he's just like disassociating while Paul tells like this
I know.
lovely story. Like,
I'm going like, oh, dude, I would divorce you.
it's over. Um, I did want to point out, I know we're jumping around a lot, but it's like it's a lot to take in. But the end of the episode between Saru and Burnham, where Saru truly thinks he is about to die and has asked his friend to like end his suffering, I thought was one of the best acted and like written two-handers we've had this season so far.
I mean, like, sure, like, but like, like that's the only really dramatic moment, right?
Yeah.
That,
But I
that
mean, you felt it. It's like everyone stands up on the bridge. I felt like they really did a good job of like building up the emotional tension there.
like my response is, you felt it.
I did feel it.
People felt it, like not Terran Empire Paul Satajit. I'm like, okay, so we know he's not going to die. The prosthetics just cost too much. It just cost too much,
Well, then they went ahead and did an entire episode that was on the Kelpian planet. So we're
Yeah,
gonna reuse all of those. Um, I also really enjoyed the Sound of Thunder, the episode that takes place on the Kelpian planet a lot. I think that to me was one of that might be my favorite of the first 7.
interesting. Okay, I don't. I think it's good. I feel like for me, like I don't know what it is to like have my fear removed. So
Mhm.
I don't know like what
I
kind of
think that's
dick.
just how you live, Paul.
That's right. I don't know what kind of dick I would be, but I go, man, Saru's a real dick right now. Like,
Yeah, it kinda it reminds me a bit of, like, if you were to go through, like, puberty very
sure.
quickly,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
to me, it was one of the more, uh I just thought it was a really well done episode
Mhm.
because you are following, like, Saru's emotional arc the entire time.
Sure.
The reunion with his sister was very sweet. I thought the production design on the planet
Mhm.
was really cool, and I am obsessed with the Bowel.
But
I
see,
love the Bowel.
I go the other way. I go the other way. I go like, I don't know if I really believe, like, here is a super intelligent race that hangs out in Argus.
It's I find I love
That's the name,
when
right? Was it? That's the name, right? Argus. That's
the big thing that killed,
Tasha Yar, right?
Tasha Yar, yeah. Um, I don't think it's Argus, but I'll look it up. I'm, like, on the Bowel train. But, to me, it's more fun t for me to think about the potentials of what other life can be like out in space than just
Mhm.
things that also
Sure.
look like humans. So when they take big swings like in the season with the big orb that's destroying everything and it's
Mhm.
those like crazy jellyfish looking creatures, the bowel armis, thank you.
Armin. Uh,
You were close. But um yeah, the bowel were really cool. I mean, I love horror
no, no,
stuff.
yeah, that's right. The Balu are cool
Yeah.
because I love things that look like they come from American Horror Story.
Yeah, I like things that look like my sleep my sleep demons at night.
That's right.
My
Like
sleep
like like
paralysis demon.
Mariah closes her eyes and she sees like Hellraiser and all this stuff. He goes, and she goes like, oh, how you doing? He goes, yep, just
It's
same old
just
normal
fine.
stuff.
Don't worry about it.
I'm at my happy place.
It's just
I'm at my
me and the Babadook
right, me and my happy
hanging
place.
out. And then yeah, we kind of get our first big glimpse of the Red Angel in this episode, which I appreciated that we finally are starting to solidify like, oh, this is someone with like technology that is
Mhm.
traveling through time. Because it is definitely a lot of ambiguity about our big puzzle box for the first 7
Sure. No,
for the season.
I think my favorite. Well, so we got the Janet Reno, not Janet. I'm sorry,
Jet Reno.
Jet Reno. We got New Eden.
New Eden. We have Point of Light, which is
Sorry.
Amanda comes in, which is just, I love anytime we have Amanda Grayson.
Mhm.
That was the other thing I wanted to talk about is in Lights and Shadows, we get that epic like standoff between Amanda and Sarek,
Yeah.
where she is just like, too bad, husband, try again. Like,
Yeah. No. I mean, it's good. Like and it just goes how much to show that Vulcans are racist. Like
um
everyone's favorite racist, alien species.
I thought Lights and Shadows, which is that 7th episode, was fairly balanced with like kind of our A plot, B plot.
Sure.
I like when we get to visit Vulcan. I feel like I could really see a lot of the budget being used in this first
Mhm.
7 episodes, and I know it's going to kind of get even crazier. But we get to see Burnham really interacting with her family. We get lots of flashback moments. And then like our other plot is Pike and Tyler having their like dick measurement in that tiny shuttlecraft. Got to have your top knot ready. And then we get our Matrix device that comes in from the future trying to steal all the data.
Like, why do people like Tyler so much?
He's beautiful.
That
He's
really.
also so I will say Shazad Latif, who is the actor, he is very funny. I don't know if you've ever watched Toast of London, but he's a delight in that show.
Sure, but like Ash Tyler, I go like, you're kind of like
I feel like
milk toasty to me.
I think he's trying. I mean, he is just trying to figure out where the heck he belongs in the world. Because there's very few people who were a Klingon forced into a human body who somehow has the memories of both, has been deprogrammed to not act on those memories, but can still access them in some way. I do remember in here, like for episode 3, I was like, there's things I enjoyed, like the split set when they're having Tyler and Michael have that conversation between the two of them. It reminded me very much of like that Rey and what's his face from Star Wars when they're like having that internal heady battle with each
Sure,
other.
yeah, like
You know what I mean?
Kylo Ren.
Kylo Ren, that guy. I'm not in charge of that show or being having to know any of that information, so it's in there somewhere. I don't know. Interesting choices with Ash Tyler.
I mean, like I don't understand. That's not saying that I'm right. I like, I think there's obviously someone made the right casting call and the right writing for him because like people enjoy him.
Mm-hmm.
I just
Well,
look at
I mean, I think he's always been pretty controversial. It's interesting to me. I think the longer he has stayed around, I feel like the take on him has gotten less negative in my mind. Because I remember from season 2, like there was a lot of like, oh, Ash Tyler, and there's a lot of defending of Ash Tyler having to happen.
Yeah, no, I mean like I said, aside from the Klingon jam, he's fairly milk toast to me. To me, like, but milk toast is not bad. Like like for all of it, Pike is milk toast. He's pretty Boy Scout. I prefer Lorca, but I'm part
So you
sociopath.
just want everyone to be evil.
It's not evil. I want everyone to not follow the script as it is.
Well, I feel he's in section 31 now. He's not totally following the script.
But he's the script like, oh, like I'm so damaged. I'm gonna just like look with my sad eyes and damage and come heal me, please. I need to be healed by someone. I need someone to like to
Is
put
it
their
that he's so
gentle.
much like yourself, Paul? Is that
Well, it is that it. Like, sometimes we don't like looking in the mirror. It's, it happens a lot.
what are other like what do you mean? Cheapy's asking repeatedly.
Uh-huh.
What do you find milk toast?
Like, so about him, like, so what is his, what is his space in the world? He's this damaged soldier
Mhm.
who basically needs Burnham to fix him, right? Just give me your
Well, I
love.
think at this point he is trying to fix himself.
Exactly. But he's just this damaged guy who just, like, just keeps on going, like, oh, hey, here I am with all my damage, which is fine, except it's just not interesting to me. Like,
Well, I think that's what I mean about like it feels like they built up and created this very complicated character and then didn't know where else to take it.
you know what it is? It comes down to this. I don't think he has a sense of humor.
The character.
Yeah, yeah, the character Ash. I don't, like I don't
Yeah.
think. I think what it is like, oh, he takes himself so seriously,
Mm.
whereas everyone else has a little wink to them.
Mhm.
Maybe Saru doesn't, but, like, Saru, with the way his hands kind of walk anyway, he
He's
looks.
got some whimsy.
Yeah, like, but Ash just takes himself very, very seriously,
Mhm.
and, like, you can do that. Like, Lorca took himself very, very seriously.
But had the villain mustache twirlies to kind of give him some
And
texture.
for whatever reason, like, Ash, like, he takes himself seriously, and to me, he's whiny. Lorca wasn't whiny.
Mm.
To me, this is just my take. Like, like, I've as and this is not even judging the actor. This is just going like, huh, the character that they presented to me is someone that I've never truly understood. Like, I have no idea
Mhm.
why, Section 31 hired him. They go like, oh, well, you have the Klingon bit and you're walking in the gray. I go like, that seems like a really weird person to give, basically a license to kill to. It just seems weird to me. Like, when you see had Sloan in Section 31, you go like, oh, here's this person who really believes in Federation. Like,
Mhm.
like, so much so that he would betray the ideals of the Federation in order to safeguard the Federation. That's how much he believes. He's willing to be a monster in order to protect the thing he loves. You know, Section 31 in Discovery is basically, hey, here's my badge.
Yeah, the badge toss was a very strange blocking choice. Um, this is what gives me power. Um, but I did enjoy. I think the Pike versus Tyler to me pairing can help. I think could help both of their
Mhm.
characterizations and like I think helps them figure out who they are. I will say from the very beginning though, there are those characters that feel like they really spent the time to be like, this is who this is.
Mhm.
And it could be that um in the case of like Jet Reno, it's like I have such a clear vision of who this character is from jump,
Yeah, hundred
right?
percent, 100%,
And it takes very little screen time for me to understand this character.
100%.
And each like iteration of more details all informs the person that I've also kind of created in my mind. Like the fan cam version of Reno is very
Mhm.
clear to me.
Sure.
Same thing with Pike. I think from the very first
The
time
very
Pike is on the bridge, you're like, I understand this person so clearly. I know this character. I can follow it through. And these aren't, my point using those two is like, yes, well, we have some backstory on Pike. None of us really know who this character is supposed to be
sure.
from our viewing. And same thing with Reno. This is a
Mhm.
brand new character. I think we get the same things with I think this season does a lot for me for Tilly. I think we've had a really great
Mhm.
arc between 1 and 2, like to fully realize who she is as a person. And then Saru, I think, gets that this season as
Mhm.
well with his full backstory. And it's wild to me that like I can and like Giorgio, both captain and it's wild, even both captain and emperor. And I feel like there at times is such a distinct lack of direction and like signposting for Burnham, for Ash, for at times
Stannis.
Stamets.
Yeah.
And it's like it's interesting to me. It feels like I don't know. It's
So here's how I
yeah,
would describe what you're saying. Like the ones that you feel are clear uh are very archetypical. Like
correct. Yeah.
here's the nerd, here's the blah blah blah, here's
Here's the grumpy engineer. Here's
eh,
the yeah,
and I think with Burnham and Tyler and who else did you mention?
Stamets.
Damn it. Like they are probably more trying to be psychologically realistic to the
Mhm.
situation, and it's where they're written. So in some ways, they would be more rich, but like you'd have to invest so much time in them, and so we've only been them with them for about at this point 20 episodes.
Yeah.
You know, it
And
it you go.
oh, well, I think that to me is like when we talk about these things feeling jam-packed, it's like at times I wish we did less story-wise to get more character time.
Maybe like like I think it's a hard thing to do. I think to work with generate a universe
Oh,
in 14
100%.
in
Yeah.
14 episodes. I think that's really hard, and then do the service to the characters. Like it might sound like I'm crapping on Discovery a little bit. I go, it's an impossible task.
It's very difficult,
Yeah,
especially because you are building a world that is not the same world. Because like,
yeah,
when I think of shows that I think do it well, they're not in it's not a lot in sci-fi. It's very hard because you're having to build a lot of
mhm.
these external pieces as well. Um,
But I would say
yeah.
like for Burnham, like they kind of just let go of all that like Vulcan stoicism with her. Like and and
I can still see it, and I think, this is my, like, hat tip to Sonequa Martin Green. I think she's doing the most with what she has been given in some instances, especially in these first, like, 1.5 seasons. I think, to me, where Burnham really came into her own is when we jump into the future, and now I have a very clear
mhm,
picture of who
sure.
Burnham is as a character, and I think it was once you, like, unburdened a bit of, I think, the expectations of what this show was, quote unquote, supposed to be for a lot of people.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think a lot of people like I think when you start setting up a character, if you start them off well, like a good first impression, then then it's easier to get on with them. But like
Mhm.
if you start them off in a way that like gives a bad impression, like I think a lot of people take a long time to uh forgive them. And we go to Picard, and we were talking about what's his face, last season. Who was the captain in Picard? The guy who dies at the end.
Oh, Shaw.
Shaw. Shaw is great. I think Shaw is amazing. I think he a great character, but he started off on the wrong foot, and Clyde could not get over it for the
Right.
longest time. Right.
Yeah, it was like he's sus, right?
And they go, you can't talk to Picard like that. No, he's supposed to talk to Picard like that because it's his ship, and Picard is like, is trying to hijack the ship. Like, that's like he's doing the exact right thing.
Mhm.
So like it could literally be that like I have a hard time with Ash because like he's introduced to me in a way that I'm like, yeah, like
Mm,
it's not really like maybe I feel like I didn't understand his purpose for so long.
mhm.
Like like
I mean, I think his purpose, like, within the show was to show that Burnham could grow emotionally,
and
right?
and
Which
and
is
and I guess I'm not a biggest fan of that.
right.
Like to use Tyler for that. I guess
Mhm.
that's what maybe that's another thing. Like maybe I think Tyler is used in a very like coarse way of trying to like to show that Burnham can expand her emotionality and
Mhm.
blah blah blah. The only episode that I think I enjoyed Ash in was the time loop episode.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
and because it's two people hanging out trying to get to know each other in a time loop, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, I think to your point, like that is an episode I think so many people like because it's like while there is this overarching like problem that this crew has to solve, I think it's one where we actually got to know a lot of our core characters
mhm,
in a way outside of a lot of these episodes have been doing. And
yeah.
I think it's what I wish I saw more of from this season in particular, especially this first half, just because it does feel so packed and the point I was saying earlier, it's like, oh, we're going to introduce all these legacy characters and
Mhm.
see if people are interested in that. And oh, we're going to really flush out section 31 is this like interesting gray area and we're going to stick interesting characters and like, Leland is like a fun twirly mustache villain like right
Yeah,
off the
no,
bat,
no,
and like, their outfits are are so villainy. Like even the doctor wears that clear like
that's right.
PVC like jacket when they're gonna like rip Spock's mind apart to like read his memories or whatever. And then, you have Giorgio who even, man, I will say the Giorgio Burnham like
Fight.
hand-to-hand combat fight, so good. Like
No, it's
I
great.
I want it all the time. And it was like a fun character development moment where you're like, oh, Giorgio is changing a little bit. She still has this connection to Michael, even if it isn't her Michael.
I mean,
Um, yeah,
like Burnham is to like Giorgio is like Walter White, and like Burnham is like Jesse. Like
yeah,
it's so like Burnham is her weakness, right?
right.
Because she loves Burnham, and
Hmm.
that and that's and that's the sin. That's the Terran sin.
That
Like
is the Terran sin.
and unfortunately, I love myself.
um, yes. So here at the end of episode 7, we finally get a Spock reveal. We have Beardy out of his mind,
Hmm.
Spock, who we bring it back once again to that Alice in Wonder. I was like, who was so obsessed with the Alice in Wonderland thing? Who like could not get over that in the writer's room?
Have you
Is my
read Alice in
question.
Wonderland?
I mean, yes, is like in like middle school or something.
I don't know.
It's fine. It's a
It's
good, I mean, it's fun. Do you remember there was this why I will post a link on my social media. There was this wild version of Alice in Wonderland that had like this really crazy like dragon demon puppet that like chased her through the woods.
no, I don't
It was
remember
like a
this.
live action Alice in Wonderland. It's
No.
bananas. I will find it and send you the link to the
Great,
preview.
great, great,
And
great.
it's one of those things when I resaw it as an adult and I said, "Oh, this makes sense why I am the way I am." If this is what I was watching as a child. It's really dark. Anyway, we also use the mycelial network in a super fun way where we get Stamets jumping through time to save the day. That was very fun to watch. I always love when we get Stamets and Tilly being like, science will save us because that's what I want to see. That's
Science
what I
saving
want to
you.
see. Yes, it's nice. And then we end on a big old cliffhanger here, where Burnham is heading to Talos 5, where
4.
we know 4, Talos 4. Sorry, I put the Roman numeral and I can't read this late at night for me. Um, so yes, Talos 4. What
Yeah,
do you?
like it's one of those things where you're jamming in a bunch of stuff again.
Mhm,
Like I suppose in some ways I wonder, like I'm privy to people, like, in their writing process, and especially when they choose to write things that are like based on IP,
mhm,
and like it's a real hard thing to see people shoehorn stuff in versus like this is organic.
mm,
You know, like for because the Talos 4, for those of you who don't know, is the planet where Pike ends up. It's
mhm,
the planet where like
I mean, it's the original pilot planet.
And as such, like, you're like going, did you really need to shoehorn that in, or did you just want to say, "Oh, here's that throwback"? Like, did an exec give a note like, "Hey, we want to see more Star Trek," so you just get like, "Oh, here are all the Star Trek stuff. Let's throw it on the table and put it on phone." Which I get, I get, and truth be told, if I didn't know, it might even be better for me.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I do wonder if they were like, oh, now they're just like going to this place. But yeah, we still have time crystals coming up. We still
Yeah,
have
like,
the
like,
reveal of Pike's fate. We still have all of the all of Control. We've got Arium, who's just like, I will say, because I was looking for it, you
yeah,
can see them trying to introduce Arium now
yeah,
as like
that's right.
more of a character,
Yeah.
and I was like, oh, I see it now. But it did feel a little out of left field. I remember from the first watch.
Like, I like it's always been hard for me to go like, "Oh, here are these Klingons, and they're the protector of time crystals."
Hmm.
It never just seemed right, like, to me. It just seemed like,
I mean,
mm,
they're like monastic though.
yeah, I don't know. I just it's one of those things, like, maybe I'm not the Klingon lover that you are, the Klingon
Yeah.
file, but
I get it. I think it's really cool. I think I'll send you some comic books I think you should read, and then you'll be like, I'm down with these like cool, weird religious monk Klingons that
okay.
just like kind of meditate and use their anger and their vengeance in different ways.
Yeah, like, it's almost like you're saying, like, Klingons are genetically angry, which, seems, like, so rough.
No, I don't think they're genetically angry.
So, but, like,
I think they have a fire within them and they have to learn how to hone that fire in a particular way.
fair, okay, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it is that aspect where, like, the Klingons in the monastery are antithetical to the narrative of Klingon that I've
You've been
I've been
fed.
I've been fed. These lies that I've been fed.
The lies. This is why
Eh,
they should really, I mean, I don't know, Paul, you're not into the Klingons, so I don't know if you can get in, but it's like, they could just like let us write the Klingon version of The Sopranos and, it would be really cool.
no, I think it's because I'm not into Klingons that I
It
make
would be helpful. Yeah.
it's right, like, like, "Oh," uh, like, Myrriah go like, more blood wine," and I go like, "You know what?
Let's pull it back.
Like,
Let's
too much blood wine."
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, yes, I was going through my notes to see if there's any other like things I wrote down that were just like amazing. I wrote down that I love when Giorgio treats Leland like he's the little boy that he is. Um, I think I wrote down episode 6 and 1 are probably my faves of this set.
Mhm.
Yeah, mostly because we get introduced to Reno in that first episode. And yeah, that's it. Bearded Spock, Leland is sus, Talos 4. Here we go.
Yeah, we'll see, like, I find it very enriching to watch it again, because I only watched season 2
Hmm.
once,
Right.
straight through, and so looking at it with a certain context now, I go like, "Oh, I think for me, Discovery was ahead of its time,"
Mm,
and it took me a second to catch up,
yeah. Yeah.
so and, and this with all due love and stuff like that, it's just like, "Oh," I couldn't see what they were doing because it was such a departure from what Star Trek was to me, but, like,
Yeah.
as other stuff came in, like, you could see, like, oh, like Picard or,
Lower Decks,
lower
Prodigy.
less Lower Decks, less Prodigy, but, like, Picard and even Strange New Worlds, you could see, like,
Hmm.
oh, Strange New Worlds, although it is, quote, unquote, "my Trek," you could see its predecessor, this
Yeah.
Discovery as its predecessor, so and I go like, "Oh,
Yeah.
it
I mean,
it
I think, we wouldn't have the rest of this track without Discovery. And I think it has to be it is successful in it being a true modern Trek
yeah,
TV show.
mhm."
And I think there's a lot of things that I love about it. And, I think once it got solid footing, I think actually, you know what, I'll be bold and say, I think what this says to me is that Michelle Paradise is a great showrunner because once she came in, I think the show got better.
Yeah, I feel like I've never had a season that I go like, this is my season. I hope
Mm.
season 5 is that.
Yeah.
But but when and I thought season 4 might be it for a while, but then Space Whales. I was like, yeah,
I love Space Whales. You can't take that away from me.
yeah, Space Whales. Okay.
Oh, the Space Whales. Anything else to add, Paul?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think I said enough. I think Choopy hates me now. I'm sorry, Choopy. I think we can be friends. I hope we can be friends.
I think
Uh,
we'll make it after all.
that I don't know, but but if there can be a place for a Terran Empress in in the mirror universe in the future, there's a place for what you know what there isn't. She dies. She'll die there. So maybe
You'll be
we'll see how it
fine.
goes.
You'll get your own spinoff. That's how this works.
There we go. There we go. Looking for my own spinoff. Welcome
We
to the Shuttlecraft podcast with Paul Sataja here.
We will be back next week talking about the second half of season 2 as we prepare for our final season coming in April. You can subscribe, rate, and review on Apple and on Spotify. Leave us a review. Let us know what you've been thinking about these rewatches. Have you been rewatching with us? What are your thoughts? Tell us.
And thanks, Carmen, for the shout out on Spock Time.
Yes, thank you. Spock Time was a good time. Join us over on the Patreon, where you can find us at StarTrekPod.co for links to our Patreon. Also, we have merch. We sold our first sticker this week, Paul. It was our wonderful peanut hamper, mathematically perfect sticker.
Speaking of which, before I go, did anyone ever make the correlation that Control is just the predecessor to Peanut Hamper?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
No one put that together. No one said it out loud. Everyone
The
knew
Control
it.
to peanut hamper timeline.
Yeah, like no one, it's yeah. So there you go.
Maybe our next shirt is Control is just Junior Peanut Hamper.
That's right.
Let us know what you want in your next t-shirt and sticker rounds. You can find us on Instagram and on X at Star Trek Pod. Thank you, Karen, for helping us run the X/Twitter, whatever we're calling it. We will see you all next time, y'all. Live long and prosper. Bye-bye. Oh, thank you to Taco for buying the peanut hamper sticker. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.